Delegates, distinguished delegates, now you have taken your seats. We resume the diplomatic conference for the adoption of the Convention establishing an International Claims Commission for Ukraine. Mr. Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to chair this diplomatic conference for the adoption of the Convention establishing an International Claims Commission for Ukraine, hosted by the Council of Europe and the Government of the Netherlands. The Convention represents the culmination of determined multilateral effort, extensive legal work, and the unwavering commitment of the international community to uphold the principles of international law. I wish to commend the Council of Europe for its pioneering work to ensure accountability for Ukraine and its people. We have a full program today. I would therefore kindly request that all speakers adhere strictly to their allotted speaking time and maintain a measured pace to ensure accurate interpretation. To open our high-level segment, I have the great pleasure of giving the floor to the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Mr. Alain Berset.
President Zelenskiy, Prime Minister Zoff, President Sandu, ministers, delegates, it's for me a great pleasure and a great honor to open this conference with you this morning. And it is a great pleasure also to do this and great honor to do this with the Netherlands. And thank you very much for the strong support. On a February morning, almost 4 years ago, Russia chose war, a war of aggression. Ukraine did not choose this war, but every day since, Ukraine chooses to defend itself and its rights to a European future. And our responsibility is to defend that right with weapons where needed, with justice and values where it counts. The Council of Europe Convention that opens for signature today is justice. It is justice for the children taken and deported, for lives marked by injury and trauma, and for those who will never return. Mr. President, in Strasbourg, at the headquarters of the Council of Europe last June, you said, justice takes time, but it must happen. The Council of Europe wasted no time. We created the Register of Damage for Ukraine in 2023. 44 states and the European Union have joined. Over 85,000 claims have been submitted and counting. From recording losses to deciding claims, we have chosen the fastest and the most realistic path, a path leading to a claims commission developed within the Council of Europe framework. And this is a unique international independent tool which should be central when addressing the issue of reparations during peace talks. Today here in The Hague, 35 countries will sign the convention establishing the Claims Commission. This is unprecedented for a convention on its first day. And I hope that others will follow. This convention is open to every state, all around the world, all on equal footing. And together they all send a clear message. every loss must be recorded, every loss repaired. Accountability is the work, as we know, of the European Court of Human Rights, an institution of the Council of Europe. In July, last July, the court held Russia accountable for widespread abuses in Ukraine since 2014, a judgment that will shape international justice for years to come. We also see accountability in the ongoing work to establish the special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. Accountability cannot be a footnote to peace talks. Accountability is a central aspect of any peace plan, but not the only one. Elections, children, minority languages, a functional post-war judicial system, a robust anti-corruption framework in support of investment and reconstruction, these are all areas covered by the Council of Europe's Action Plan for Ukraine. These are areas where Ukraine can give solid guarantees to its partners, including on its path to EU accession. The Council of Europe has no drones, no missiles, but it has the force of the law, international law that applies to all, no exceptions, no double standards. And our task is clear: to record the truth, to provide redress, and to hold those responsible to account. Justice takes time, but it must happen, and the International Claims Commission for Ukraine leads the way. On behalf of the Council of Europe, and in the name of all the people working on this convention, I thank you all for the strong presence today, underlining the very importance of this moment. Thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Secretary General. It is now my honor to invite the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, His Excellency Mr. Dick Schoof, to take the floor.
President Zelenskiy, Volodymyr, Secretary General Berset, President Sandu, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Netherlands, welcome to The Hague. Over the past few days, Ukraine has been at the center of international talks. Yesterday, we had a constructive meeting in Berlin. There, with Europe and the US working in partnership, important steps were taken on the road to a lasting peace. We discussed a range of issues, including security guarantees. Everyone feels the urgency, and a ceasefire now finally seems like a realistic possibility. That's good news, because the people of Ukraine continue fighting day and night for their independence after almost 4 years of war. A just and lasting peace requires that Russia compensates Ukraine for the damage it has inflicted. And so, today we are here to talk about reparations. Your attendance, Volodymyr, underscores the great importance of this moment and of this conference. We are honored that you're here with us today. Today is all about justice, because without it, there can be no just and lasting peace. But justice doesn't just follow automatically. We need to lay the groundwork and prepare as carefully as possible. Today, we are taking the next step. We have launched the International Claims Commission for Ukraine, which will deal with compensation for damage inflicted during the war. Every day in Ukraine, Russia is deliberately bombarding homes, destroying businesses, and damaging infrastructure. And there must be no impunity. Volodymyr, at an earlier stage, you invited the Netherlands to take the lead on restoring justice. We accepted that invitation enthusiastically, as you might expect from a country where promoting the international legal order is enshrined in the Constitution. A country that is home to The Hague, known as the International City of Peace and Justice, and, since the founding of the Peace Palace, host to a great many international courts and tribunals. Today, we are proud to build on that legacy. On the first day of this diplomatic conference, a resolution was adopted requesting the Netherlands to host the Claims Commission in the framework of the Council of Europe. It goes without saying that we will gladly agree to do so. The Dutch government sees this as a logical next step in a long-running process. For some time now, we have been working with Ukraine, the Council of Europe and the countries represented here today to achieve justice for Ukraine. And together we are making progress. Take the Special Tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine and the Register of Damage, for example. And now, the International Claims Commission, which is being launched today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are sending a very clear message from here in The Hague, that after peace is achieved, justice must be allowed to take its course. And that even once the war has ended, Ukraine can continue to count on the Netherlands and all the other partners that are with us today. Thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. It is now my honor to invite the President of Ukraine, His Excellency Mr. Volodymyr Zelenskiy, to take the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, dear Prime Minister. Dear Dick, thank you so much. And dear President Sandu, Maia, dear Secretary General Berset, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you for everything, for your support. Dear friends, ministers, and first of all, I want to tell you thank you to your nations, to your leaders, to your people. This is very important that all this year of this war, your nations are with us. Thank you so much for your people. For all this support, for us, for Ukraine, for people, and our children, and for our right to defend ourselves in every sense of the word. Not only the right to physical protection as an independent nation against external aggression, but also the right to live a normal life safely, like everyone in Europe or any other part of the world deserves. Today and this year, things are being created for Ukraine that should have started a long time ago, at least back in 2014. But really, in fact, considering how many wars Russia has started or supported, this should have happened even earlier. Europe has a very, very long history of wars, and it cannot afford to treat this lightly. All pressure on Russia must remain in place as long as occupation of our land continues. Russia must feel that it is a criminal and face consequences for that as long as our people remain in Russian captivity and until the Ukrainian children abducted by Russia are brought home. Sanctions must limit Russia until it shows respect for peaceful life and the rights of its neighbors. And of course, every Russian war crime must have consequences for those who committed them. We hope the Tribunal for Russian aggression will truly begin its work, not just for us, but for everyone who wants peace in Europe. We expect that every mechanism for compensation from the Register of Damage and Claims Commission to the actual payments will start working and receive strong and sufficient international support so that people can truly feel that any kind of damage caused by the war can be compensated. This war and Russia's responsibility for it must become a clear example so that others learn not to choose aggression. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
I thank you, Mr. President. It is now my honor to invite the President of the Republic of Moldova, representing the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe, Her Excellency Ms. Maia Sandu, to take the floor.
Prime Minister Dick Skuf, President Volodymyr Zelenskiy, Secretary General Alain Berset, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for bringing us together. We meet as Russia's full-scale aggression against Ukraine continues to take lives, destroy cities, and weaken the foundations of the European security. So, amid all high-level discussions, we must keep the ultimate objective in mind: to save lives, stop the suffering, and bring peace that does not give rise to the next war. Moldova supports all efforts that bring an end to the war and the suffering it causes, all efforts that lead to a dignified peace, and all efforts that prevent a future war. Because how this war ends will shape Europe's future. In this sense, history is consistent. Peace without accountability rarely holds. Where responsibility is affirmed through law and institutions, societies recover. Where accountability is avoided or postponed, violence returns, often in more destabilizing forms. Accountability is about creating the conditions for peace that endures. And therefore, accountability is a condition of security today and for the future. But accountability is not only about Ukraine, and it is not only about one aggressor and one victim. Accountability is about Europe, about every country in Europe. It is about whether Europe as a whole is willing to defend its peace. This war is already affecting our normal ways of life far beyond the front line. Drones violate European airspace, disrupting travel plans. Critical infrastructure is targeted through sabotage. Cyber attacks disrupt services. Disinformation seeks to divide our societies from within. This is how modern hybrid war spreads, quietly, gradually, and deliberately. The front line is not only in Ukraine, it is wherever Europeans expect safety, stability, and normality and begin to lose them. This moment is about Ukraine, but it is also about whether free and sovereign nations in Europe can protect their people from evil and harm, whether we, Europeans, can hold together in solidarity to defend our way of life, our democracies, and our peace. This is why the convention we signed today, establishing the International Claims Commission for Ukraine, matters. This matters first and foremost for people, for those who lost family members, for those whose homes were destroyed, whose lives were forever changed. Law cannot undo loss, but it can recognize harm, restore dignity, and affirm that suffering is neither invisible nor forgotten. Secondly, it also matters for the international system. Accountability, when it is credible, predictable, and institutionalized, tells aggressors that violations will be recorded, assessed, and addressed. Third, The way this commission has been created sends a signal. It affirms multilateralism and a rule-based international order. At a time when some argue that power alone should decide outcomes, Europe is stating something different, that stability depends on law, cooperation, and shared responsibility, especially for smaller and more vulnerable states. The Council of Europe has provided a credible institutional framework for this effort. I also wish to acknowledge the role of the Netherlands. The Hague has long stood as a center of international law, and its engagement has been essential in moving this effort forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we should also be clear-eyed about the reality on the ground. Ukraine is resisting. It continues to defend its territory, its people, and Europe's security. Russia has not achieved its objectives. Every meter of advance in Ukraine comes with colossal human and military costs for Russia. This war will soon last longer than Russia's participation in the Second World War. The fact that Moscow has still failed to take the Donbas is evidence of Ukraine's extraordinary capacity to resist and adapt. President Zelensky, Ukraine's resilience matters far beyond its borders. It preserves Europe's peace. Europe's security now depends on whether Ukraine is supported and whether Russia is denied the capacity to continue this war and prepare for the next one. Ukraine must continue to receive strong, sustained support, not sporadically, not cautiously, but with the understanding that Ukraine's success is a precondition for Europe's future peace. Supporting Ukraine now is an investment in preventing much larger conflicts later. At the same time, Russia's ability to wage war must be reduced. Sanctions matter. Isolation matters. Pressure matters. A war of aggression cannot be allowed to remain economically sustainable. Deterrence that works today avoids far greater military, economic, and human costs in the future. The EU's decision to indefinitely freeze Russian assets plays a role in this effort. It reinforces deterrence. It tells future aggressors that war leads to lasting costs. How this war ends will determine whether Europe faces stability or more wars. And this is Europe's responsibility, not someone else's, not another continent's. The responsibility lies with Europe to stand for peace, to support Ukraine, and to defend the foundations of our security, democracy, and well-being. To do so decisively or to fail history, and in doing so, endanger Europe's democratic and peaceful future. Ukraine is fighting. The question before us is whether Europe will rise to the moment or fail. I thank all the countries represented today for their support to Ukraine. And as a country holding the presidency of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe, Moldova stands for a Europe that acts early, decisively, and together. A Europe that understands that supporting Ukraine and deterring aggression today is the price of peace tomorrow. Thank you.
I thank you, Madam President. We now turn to the central item of our conference, the adoption of the documents before us, the convention, the resolution, the report, and the final act. At the heart of these instruments lies the convention establishing an International Claims Commission for Ukraine, which represents the principal achievement of our collective work. May I ask whether any delegation wishes to take the floor to raise an issue or propose an amendment to any of the draft documents? If there are no objections, I take it that the diplomatic conference is ready to proceed with their adoption. The Convention, the resolution, the report and the final act are hereby adopted. And that's what I like to do best at these meetings, gavel a result. Following the adoption of the Convention, I have the honor to formally declare the Convention open for signature. So we will now proceed to statements and the signing of the Convention and the final act of the conference. We will begin the signing ceremony with the signing of the Convention by the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Ukraine, and the Republic of Moldova. May I invite the Secretary General of the Council of Europe and the 3 delegations to the signing table. Thank you, Your Excellencies. We will now proceed with statements delivered by ministers of the states and high-level representatives of the organization having expressed their intention to sign the Convention and the final act. We will then continue with statements from the other members and observers having expressed their intention to sign the Convention and the final act. In English, alphabetical order, albeit with 1 or 2 exceptions. I now have the honor to invite Ms. Tanja Fajon, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and European Affairs of Slovenia, to deliver a statement and to proceed to the signing, followed by Georgia.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, it is an honor to address you today as we reflect on the profoundly difficult reality that we are soon to mark 4 years since the Russian Federation launched its illegal and unjustified aggression against Ukraine. 4 years of blatant violations of international law, which Slovenia condemns in the strongest possible terms. Slovenia has always advocated for peace. This commitment continues to guide our country's actions today, just as it has in the past. We support all efforts towards achieving a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, a peace that will be firmly rooted in the principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. These principles are not abstract ideas. They form the bedrock of international stability. When they are violated, the entire international community bears the consequences. Despite continuous diplomatic and peace-oriented initiatives, Russia continues to launch relentless attacks on civilian and critical infrastructure across Ukraine. Attacks that kill and injure innocent civilians and destroy homes. The Ukrainian people continue to face torture, arbitrary detention, summary execution, and the abduction of children. During my recent visit to several Ukrainian regions, I witnessed the appalling hardships as well as the remarkable resilience of the Ukrainian people. The cruel and violent acts of the aggressor must not go unpunished. Russia is the aggressor and must be held accountable for the most serious international crimes committed on Ukrainian soil, as well as for the immense damage inflicted on the country and its people. In this context, Slovenia views the establishment of the International Claims Commission as an important step towards achieving justice. Accountability is essential to achieving sustainable peace. Only by addressing the harm caused and ensuring that perpetrators face consequences, we can uphold the international legal order and prevent future violations. Slovenia will continue to support Ukraine every step on the way. Our support is anchored in our commitment to international law, human dignity, and the belief that a peaceful and secure Europe can only be built on human rights and accountability. The International Claims Commission represents our collective endeavor to ensure that the future is governed by law rather than by force. Thank you.
I now have the honor to invite Ms. Maka Bochorishvili, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Georgia, to deliver a statement and to proceed to the signing, followed by Germany.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Secretary General, thank you for bringing us together here in The Hague, a city that has become a symbol of justice and respect for international law. The struggle of the Ukrainian people to defend their country cannot leave us indifferent. The tragic reality that we are witnessing today in the heart of Europe requires greater efforts to restore peace in our region. Blatant violation of international norms must not go unanswered. We have gathered here today to take yet another step on behalf of the international community towards establishing the necessary legal mechanisms. Ukraine must have appropriate instruments to receive compensation for the damage inflicted upon the country and its people as a result of this unjust war. Georgia, as a founding member of the Register of Damage, welcomes the next step towards establishing International Claims Commission. Georgia understands better than most how vital it is to uphold international norms. We know firsthand the human cost of unresolved injustice, the displacement of civilians, the destruction of homes, and the lasting scars left on the societies when accountability is denied. Even today, we continue our struggle to make use of existing legal mechanisms to ensure that the violated rights of our citizens resulting from Russia's occupation of 2 regions of Georgia are not forgotten. Despite numerous decisions by international courts holding Russia responsible vis-à-vis Georgia, it continues to disregard international law and its international obligations. This is precisely why it is necessary to reflect on the effectiveness of existing mechanisms and to take appropriate steps to ensure that justice is enforced. We also clearly understand how crucial adherence to the international rules-based order is for ensuring peace. Georgia is committed to the peaceful resolution of conflicts, and we appreciate the steadfast international support in this regard. Indeed, a consolidated response by the international community can make a significant impact. Lastly, Georgia remains in solidarity with the Ukrainian people. We support Ukraine's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and its right to justice. I would like to thank the Netherlands for hosting this conference and Secretary General for his efforts. Thank you.
I now have the honor to invite Mr. Florian Hahn, Minister of State at the Federal Foreign Office of Germany, to deliver a statement and to proceed to the signing, followed by Lithuania.
Secretary General, Prime Minister, President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, millions of displaced people destroyed, livelihoods, countless families torn apart. Today we are talking about Ukraine, about peaceful civilians who had to flee Russia's bombs, about families who have lost everything they own, and about the people of Ukraine who, despite everything, continue to resolutely defend their freedom, their values, and their identity. Germany stands by Ukraine and will be Ukraine's largest supporter this year, with additional assistance for air defense, with an increase in our funding of bilateral military support to Ukraine, and with support for the energy infrastructure targeted by Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, today is also about upholding the Charter of the United Nations and its fundamental principle of international law, the prohibition of use of force. In 2022, the UN General Assembly recognized in its resolution further ends of remedy and reparation for aggression against Ukraine that the Russian Federation must be held to account for any violations of international law in or against Ukraine. The people of Ukraine can now be assured their claims will be taken seriously. They will be examined in a professionally established international process. The establishment of the Claims Commission is an important step towards ensuring accountability and securing compensation for Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, most importantly, the people of Ukraine needs peace. Ukraine is ready to negotiate a peace solution, but Russia remains evasive and continues its reckless strikes. Germany will therefore, together with its partners, uphold its efforts to achieving an end to Russia's war, emphasizing that any solution must fully align with the principles of the United Nations Charter. We will continue with our partners to work for a just and lasting peace that the people of Ukraine fully deserve. In closing, I wish to thank the Council of Europe for hosting the Claims Commission under its roof, and I thank the Kingdom of the Netherlands for their support for the negotiations and its openness to host the Claims Commission here in The Hague. Thank you very much for your attention.
I now have the honor to invite Mr. Kęstutis Budrys, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Lithuania, to deliver a statement and to proceed to the signing, followed by Malta.
Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'm honored that today we are able to sign the convention establishing the International Claims Commission for Ukraine. By doing so, we reiterate our unwavering commitment to solidarity with Ukraine. Together, we are seeking full-fledged accountability for all international crimes committed by Russia in and against Ukraine, as well as for all violations of international law in that context. We stand united with Ukraine in defense of international legal order that protects every nation represented here today. Today's signing of the Convention marks a significant and necessary evolution in our collective legal response to Russia's ongoing aggression. With this step, the international community affirms that legal response will not remain in theory. There will be just and concrete consequences, including financial ones, enforced by the mechanism we are in process of creating. I would like to sincerely thank everyone for their hard work in making it happen. In such a short term, Lithuania is committed to ratifying the Convention as quickly as possible, demonstrating our determination to uphold justice and accountability. We urge all countries that have signed it to complete their internal procedures swiftly so it may enter into force and the Commission can begin its work. Moreover, we need to work together, getting all eligible states on board to sign and ratify the Convention without delay. And we should keep calling on all eligible states to join the register of damage for Ukraine, whether as members or associated members. The register and the Convention confirms our political commitment, expressed in the UN General Assembly's resolution on furtherance of remedy and reparation for aggression against Ukraine. Dear friends, I wish to emphasize that for Lithuania, the establishment of the Claims Commission carries profound meaning. Our history teaches us how vital accountability and reparations are for international wrongful acts. There were no reparations for the occupation and annexation of Lithuania and the other Baltic states by the Soviet Union under the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Putin and his regime since the outset acted as if those crimes never happened. This denial and impunity has only encouraged Russia's repeated aggression against Georgia in 2008, against Ukraine in 2014, and again in 2022. In conclusion, let me recall the fundamental principles. First, solidarity. Standing with Ukraine sends a clear and unwavering signal. Aggression will never be legitimized by the international community. Second, justice. Accountability for international crimes cannot be evaded. And finally, respect for the international law. The success of ensuring tangible legal consequences for international crimes committed by Russia will reinforce the global rules-based international order. Thank you all.
I now have the honor to invite Mr. Stefan Zrinzo-Azzopardi to deliver a statement and to proceed to the signing, followed by Montenegro.
Excellencies, colleagues, today we stand together bound by a sense of duty and a common cause, marking a historic occasion of undeniable significance, that of the official adoption of the Convention establishing an International Claims Commission for Ukraine. This convention brings us to yet another crucial milestone in furtherance of the 2022 UN General Assembly resolution on the furtherance of remedy and reparation for aggression against Ukraine, which recognized the need to establish an international compensation mechanism as also outlined in the 2023 Reykjavik Declaration for the damages caused by Russia's illegal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. The Council of Europe has stepped up as a global leader by centering victims through the Claims Commission. In succeeding the Register of Damages, the Claims Commission will ensure that the Russian Federation, as the responsible state, makes full reparations for the harm caused through its internationally wrongful acts, as also reiterated in the final act of this diplomatic conference. Malta has wholeheartedly supported this stepwise approach from the outset as a full member of the Register and looks forward to the attainment of these goals through a dedicated compensation fund. I am proud to note the active role my country has had to play in the process and recall that on the 22nd October of this year, the Maltese presidency of the Council of Europe oversaw the approval by the Committee of Ministers of the draft convention, which we now witness coming to fruition. We welcome the adoption of the final act and the resolution. Malta stands ready to continue cooperating closely with regards to the functionality of this mechanism and will follow closely the work of the Advance Team and Preparatory Committee, particularly as it pertains to the provisional budget for the first financial year of the Commission and the scale of contributions as members. Malta is also proud to have presided over the historic milestone achieved last June, whereby the Committee of Ministers paved the way for the signing of the bilateral agreement on the establishment of the Special Tribunal for Crime of Aggression against Ukraine by President Zelensky and Secretary General Berset. This agreement crucially fills in a vacuum of accountability in international criminal justice for this most serious crime against Ukraine. where international judicial bodies previously lacked the necessary jurisdiction to adjudicate on Russia's crime of aggression. Once again, we join in solidarity within yet another international forum for like-minded states to reaffirm our commitment to national sovereignty and territorial integrity, as well as to peace and stability in Europe. As Malta signs this convention, Malta chooses to stand on the right side of history, and that we will hold firm in our belief in the rules-based international order. We invite all other nation states to add their signatures without delay, as the urgent defense of justice, cooperation, and international law demands collective and timely action. It is critical that the widest possible global membership is achieved to secure the legitimacy, credibility, functionality, and effectiveness of not only the Claims Commission, but also the Special Tribunal. In doing so, the global community will be sending the unequivocal message that Russia is not exempt from its obligations under international law and that it must be held answerable for all its actions. Thank you.